Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Megan, the Healing Foods Coach, and I'm so glad that you've taken time out of your day to watch this video. So today's topic is, what about cheat days? So many people have asked who are considering starting on a animal-based approach, okay, whether they may be including some fruits and vegetables, they may not be. Wherever in the spectrum they're looking to start, whether it's at the one end where you've got very, very super strict restrictive lion diet, which is ruminant animals, water and salt, because they have high levels of inflammation that they want to heal from, or what we would categorize more keto, low carb, where they're including some plant, some fruits, some veggies, hopefully if they tolerate it, some full fat dairy. Technically they're still carnivore if 70% of what they eat comes from an animal source, whether that's dairy, whether that's things like eggs and so dairy, so milk, full fat yogurts, not with the added fruits maybe, but yogurts, sour cream, cream in their coffee, or full fat milk, cheeses, those types of things. Wherever you fall in the spectrum, okay, of course, 70% or more of what you eat is from an animal, then you are carnivore, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And many people, when they want to start this way of eating, have asked the question, well, what about cheat days? And I think my first response to that would be, if you're already looking for a reason to go off plan, I think perhaps you're not quite ready to start. Okay, if you're already looking for one day a week when you can eat starchy carbs or processed sugar, then maybe you're not quite ready yet to start into this way of eating. And if that's not where if you're not quite ready yet, that's okay. But that would, to me, would seem to indicate it's almost as if you've already decided you're going to fail, because you're allowing yourself one day to cheat. Now, again, this depends on what you guys qualify or quantify as a cheat day. If you've decided, because you have major histamine issues, maybe food allergies or intolerances, and you've eliminated absolutely everything other than ruminant animals and meat, so lamb, goat, beef, bison, some water and salt, and that's all you can tolerate right now, because you are so severely inflamed. For example, like Michaela Peterson once was. Sorry, I believe it's Michaela Fuller now, because she's married, etc. So my apologies, Michaela, if you see this video. So maybe you are like her and you have some significant inflammation and healing you have to have. And you've got to get everything else out of your diet. No pepper, no seasoning, no spices, nothing other than ruminant animal meat, water, and salt. And that's it. Okay. Good plan. Great place to start. So you're following what we call in this space a lion diet. Things lions would have eaten. They would have eaten animals. They wouldn't have added salt to their food. They would have just tore open the animal, obviously, and they would have drunk water. Cool. So you're going to start with that because you need to. Absolutely great place to begin. So for you, a cheat day could be, well, you know you don't do well with eggs, but you want to have an omelet, or you've decided that you miss cheese too much and you want to have some. That could be your version of a cheat day. You could have a bit of cheese, or you've decided, even if you don't do that great with chicken, you're going to have some wings. Okay, so if that's your version of a cheat day, you are still, for any other person that does not have to eliminate all these other foods from their diet, that is still obviously a food that you can eat as part of a carnivorous diet. However, for you in that particular situation, you know you're going to have a histamine response. So that might be your version of a cheat. Okay, and which is not necessarily bad in and of itself. However, you will have to live with the consequences of the histamine response. That could be your idea of a cheat. And if that's something you're willing to put up with, and you are willing to suffer the consequences of reacting to non-ruminant animals, technically you're still following a carnivorous diet. Many of us would not consider that a cheat per se, other than it's going to affect you. Okay. So when I'm talking about a cheat day, I'm referring obviously to things that we would eat outside of a carnivorous diet protocol. Specifically, really, the highly processed and refined sugars, carbs, and starches. Now, we need to be a little careful, because what is considered a cheat to some is just part of a normal diet for others. So example, somebody who's like Michaela Peterson and can only tolerate water, salt, and ruminant animal meats, having chicken wings or enjoying some sausages or bacon is going off plan for them. And that can definitely have a histamine response and negative consequences. Is it going to affect their overall diet, their insulin levels, and all of that? No. But they are going to have inflammation, and that is going to affect it's going to affect them in other ways. Okay, so for them, what do? Well, I would suggest that you don't have those foods. If you already know that you respond to them, don't allow yourself cheat days, because it's going to affect you, and it's going to cause you much pain and suffering, not because it's causing your blood glucose to raise and your insulin to spike per se, but because you know that you're going to react with, perhaps you will have psoriasis or eczema that will break out, or perhaps your rosacea flares up, or your joints get swollen. It's not worth it. Okay. And sometimes we don't realize that's what's been causing us to have a response, until we start to cut everything else out first. So you may reach a point in your health journey. You've been on the Lion diet protocol for, say, more than 3 months. You feel great. You want to see if you still have that response. And so you can. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to start eating those foods again, such as the bacon, or such as pork or poultry or fish or seafood or eggs, whatever it might be. You may never be able to eat those things because you simply have such a sensitive response to them. Introduce them in slowly, see how you do. But I would suggest, if you know that you don't do well with those things, keep them out of your diet. Don't allow yourself a cheat day. Give yourself time to heal. Now, when people often ask about a cheat day, what they're referring to obviously is, well, what if I want to have a few fries? Or what if I want to have a piece of cake because it's my birthday, or it's so-and-so's wedding celebration, or my kid's birthday, and I want to have a little bit. And I would say to you, as just a basic flat response, you know what happens when you have those things, because you know where it got you to begin with. And allowing yourself a cheat day, you are going to feel terrible afterwards. And what I've found, 4 years on, is that the longer you go without those things in your system, the stronger the reaction when you decide to have a cheat and allow them back in. And you will feel far worse at this point than you ever did when you were eating them regularly. And so maybe if that happens, that'll help you make the decision to, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Sometimes we have to learn the hard way. I have experienced that in my life. When I was first starting, I did keto for 2 weeks, got everything out that was causing me issues, all the vegetables, all the fruit, got out the nuts and the seeds and the legumes, again, primarily because my IBS was triggered, and it was horrible when I ate those things for me. Many people eat those things and thrive. I'm not one of them. I cut them out. I knew they would be no good to me. And, I ended up, by default, if you will, I became carnivore because I couldn't do the cheeses. I couldn't do most dairy other than butter. And I certainly couldn't do the plants, which as I realize now, even when I included those things, I was still carnivore. I was still eating, majority of my food was coming from an animal, which made me carnivore. I was just calling it keto at that point because I had plants involved. Okay, so I'm saying this for a point. So early on, I remember seeing somebody say, well, I know that I don't do well with, say, wines. Wine affects me. It affects my IBS and it makes my rosacea flare up. But I'm going to allow myself some. It was a special occasion. They decided to have a glass of wine. And for some of us, that doesn't cause us any issues. However, for this particular person, they hadn't had any alcohol or any other carbohydrates in several months. And the response to the wine was even worse than when they were drinking it somewhat regularly because their body got used to not having it. And so they realized that that cheat moment, it wasn't worth it for them. Now, if you don't have issues to start with having a bit of liquor or a glass of wine, fine. Every now and again, go ahead and enjoy it. Bear in mind, they are made from starchy carbs. So they have a huge impact on our blood glucose levels as well as our insulin. So if you are okay with those, if you're willing to accept how they will then affect you, and you occasionally want to have a glass of wine or enjoy a bit of liquor, some sort of alcohol for a special occasion, that of course you can. But it will affect your insulin levels. And that's something to keep that in mind. We forget just because these things have been fermented doesn't mean they don't affect our blood glucose and insulin levels. Of course they do. So if you're trying to keep yours as low as possible for losing body fat and for, just in general, keeping down your inflammation and for healing purposes, then you probably want to avoid those things. So you can have a glass every now and again. But if you know it's going to cause you to have a rosacea, for example, rosacea flare up or inflammation or gut issues, then right there, I'd say that is the answer. If you are someone who has an addictive response to carbohydrates and seed oils and sugars, then I wouldn't allow yourself a cheat of those regular items because it's going to potentially trigger you to go back eating them addictively once again. And you've been working hard to cut them down and cut them out. Why? I have to ask the question of, well, why would you want to eat that if you know it could possibly put you back in a place where now you want to eat it all the time? It's not worth it. Having said that, I also know sometimes that it is really hard when we are first transitioning to a non-processed, non-starchy diet to get rid of the carb cravings. And in the early transition period, those cravings are still there. And it can be very challenging if we don't prepare ourselves sort of mentally and proactively. If we don't put in some steps to help us get through those craving periods, it's really easy to give in. What do I mean? Well, when I was first going carnivore, I was able to pass up the desserts, sure. And I was able to pass up the potato chips, yes. But there was a few times we would go out we didn't go out a lot because this was 2020. When we weren't in lockdown, we would go to restaurants when we could, when we had those few weeks of freedom. We would go to restaurants and I would order the burger patties and, they would often come automatically with fries on the side and a salad. And if I hadn't allowed myself the ability to eat as much as I needed to from the meat source, so if I felt like, oh, I should only have one, in the beginning, I thought, oh, I should only eat one meat burger patty because two is too much. I wasn't eating to satiety. And when that happens, it becomes very easy when you start to have those hunger signals to go to something that's going to be quick and eat something with carbs. And even though at that point I knew I didn't do well with potatoes of any kind, they were too starchy, they weren't helping me. They also can be inflammatory. They were making my joints achy. I was known to sit and eat a handful of fries. And it took everything. I had to literally have some, my husband or someone else at the table take the plate with the fries and take them away from me, because I would have sat there and just picking away at them, because once I had one or two, my brain lit up with the salt, and they're fried in vegetable oil. So the seed oils and the salt and the starchiness, the perfect combination. And so I had times, being perfectly honest, I had times early on where I was still having cravings for carbs. As much as I had, not stopped eating them regularly, every now and then they would hit. Mostly when I hadn't allowed myself to eat to satiety. I ate to the point where I thought I was supposed to, based on some calculation in my brain, but not based on my body actually being full and satisfied. I was eating too quickly. I wasn't eating enough saturated fat with my meats. And so I was still hungry. And I would go out and if we were out, I would pick a few fries off people's plates unless they took them away from me. As an example, my first 6 months of carnivore, so 2020 at Christmas time, one of the things I missed was having shortbread cookies. And my husband found a brand that made them. They were gluten-free and they were sugar-free, but they weren't carb-free. So they were filled with sweeteners, but they were made with almond flour, which I later found out is really bad for you for a whole bunch of other reasons. So they were marketed as gluten-free, keto-friendly, sugar-free shortbread cookies, but they were still loaded with carbohydrates. So I didn't have sugar, but I had that sugar taste, and that signaled my brain. And I thought I'd have one or two small cookies. I ended up eating a package and a half in 24 hours because I can't moderate. And even if I'm not having the actual sugar, I'm getting the refined carbohydrates, the flours, as well as the seed oils that were mixed in with whatever else they were baked with. And so I understand it can be very challenging. I had decided I was going to allow myself a cheat because it was Christmas. I was going to have a cheat day and I was going to enjoy it, and that was it. And unfortunately, I felt horrible. I was bloated. I was in painful agony. My joints were swollen and achy, and my inflammation was terrible. Even though I didn't actually have any gluten, even though I didn't have any actual sugar, I had all the other processed stuff, and that was a bad decision on my part. And I will not sit here and claim that I've always been perfect. There have been moments here and there where somebody's been eating potato chips and I've had one or two just, a quick taste. And then I had to either throw the bag out or get rid of it, because one or two hits of the seed oils and the processed sugars and trans fats, and that was it. The salt, the trans fats, the seed oils, and the carbs hit me. And I knew if I didn't get that out of my sight and away from the house, like put it in the garbage bin, I was going to eat the whole bag, and I knew I'd feel terrible. And so that's kind of my story. So I understand, especially when we're kind of getting new into this protocol and it's not a way that we've ever eaten, and we are trying to get rid of inflammation. We are trying to break an addictive response to all the processed garbage. It can be very challenging. I completely understand that. And the one thing I had to learn was to not beat myself up. And that is much harder than it sounds. Okay. It is easy to beat ourselves up. Oh, I had no willpower. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I ate that. Okay. It happens. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes we do fall and we cheat, and we end up binging on carbs, even if they are unprocessed, even if it's starchy vegetables or sweet starchy fruit. Okay, we will have a similar response in our glucose and insulin levels, and the light up factor in the brain is still there. And I would never suggest that somebody sets out at the very beginning to allow themselves a cheat day. I think that could be a recipe for disaster. But I know that sometimes we make every effort and something happens. We are suddenly stressed out in life, at work. We are triggered, and if we don't prepare ourselves food-wise with an alternative, it's so easy to give in, and that stress and that anxiety pushes us to the salt, the sugar, the carb, because that's what we've always done. And that's a hard cycle to break. It's not impossible, but it is a hard cycle to break. And I understand that. Again, just sharing my examples, I have been there. Now, I don't have those issues now. You can put a plate of fries in front of me and I won't touch a single one. Doesn't interest me now. But that was not always the case. I often had to have it put far away from me so I wouldn't be tempted. You bring out a burger, if you bring out burger patty and it comes on the bun, I just take the bun off and put it way over to the side. I mean, I could leave it next to me, but I'm not tempted to have it now. But that wasn't always the case. And I understand that that can be really hard for some people. I get that. So when I say prepare yourself, these are some things that I've done that have helped and that might help you. So one of the first things I suggest is, before you really start on this pathway, put things in your refrigerator that you can keep on hand for snacking on, that are quick and easy to eat, that you don't have to go and then cook up. Because if you're having a moment where you are desperately wanting something sweet or carby and you don't have something ready to go, the normal response is, well, I want something right now. And if I have to wait 10 minutes to cook it, I'm going to give in and eat the really easy to eat crappy stuff versus cooking something for myself. So I would suggest you may want to do things like keep cocktail sausages. Here in the UK, you can get them at every grocery store. You can buy pre-cooked cocktail sausages in a pack, and they're ready to eat hot or cold. Keep a bunch of those in your fridge, presuming that you can actually eat them without any issues. If you do not have a histamine response to deli meats, keep a wide range of ready-to-go deli meats. Make your own little charcuterie board. Prosciutto, salami, pepperoni, pastrami if you like it, shaved ham, sliced turkey breast, anything like that you can literally open the package and eat right away. Keep that in your fridge. I would recommend you maybe want to keep pre-sliced cheeses, or even like the little baby bells, because all you got to do is take it out, peel the cover off, and you can eat that. Okay, so when you're having those cravings, you have something to eat that is not going to spike your insulin through the roof, right? I would suggest that, those are just some suggestions, by the way. You may want to pre-cook some bacon in advance. Keep that in a bag in the fridge. I know there are some people out in this space who refer to it as purse bacon or backpack bacon. In other words, you put it in a Ziploc bag and take it with you. It's amazing. It's delicious. If you can tolerate it, this is a good idea. Cook up a whole bunch in advance, and then when it cools off, put it in a Ziploc bag and just have it to snack on. So what if it looks weird? You are eating something that's going to light up your brain with all those delicious saturated fats and the natural salt that comes with, say, bacon or cocktail sausages, and it will keep you from eating all the starchy, processed, seedy oil. That's a thing, by the way, seedy oil, seed oils, and processed sugars. And you're going to feel satiated, and that will help you get through that period of sugar carb cravings. Okay, it will work. That it does help. You may want to consider pre-hard boiling a whole bunch of eggs and just leaving them in the fridge. So all you got to do is either A, you can peel them in advance and just keep them in a container and just eat them as you go, as you need them, or keep them in the shell and then just peel them as you go, whichever works for you. And that's another good way of staving off a carb craving. It might be just your body saying, hey man, I'm hungry, I want a snack. Eat something like that. Keep things like we have here in the UK, and I believe that they're found all over the place throughout the world, or most of the world. We call them refrigerators, and it's a little packet, and inside is some pieces of pre-cooked chicken breast, different flavors. Now, be mindful, obviously, and only in the sense that if you're sensitive to Flavorings like seasonings and spices, this is not going to work for you, but you can usually get pre-cooked mini chicken fillet breasts or mini chicken breasts that are pre-cooked. All you got to do is literally take one out of your fridge, maybe cut it in pieces if you don't want the whole thing, and eat that. Now, one of the things that I keep on hand always now is if I feel hungry, if I'm feeling kind of hungry but not super hungry, I'll cut myself a slice of butter, about 20 grams. Okay. And that fills me, that satiates me, and it keeps me from wanting to rush out and eat all the carby stuff. Or it also helps me feel satiated. And if after I eat that, if I feel full, then that tells me I wasn't super hungry. I needed a bit more fat in my body, but I'm not really hungry right now. That's great. If you eat that, and let's say within the next half hour or so, you feel like, I think I could cook some eggs or make myself something to eat. Okay, fine. Then you know you're actually hungry. And that also helps you work out if you really are hungry, or if you're just bored, or if you're just having a craving, and therefore how to push past it. And something you probably want to be sure to drink lots of is water. Okay, because that just helps with your overall fluid intake overall. But I would not necessarily head into a healthy eating lifestyle giving yourself the out of, oh, that's my cheat day. Because I think what happens quite often is that a cheat day becomes a cheat week, it can become a cheat month. And then before we know it, we're right back to where we started, and we get frustrated and we feel bad about ourselves, though we shouldn't. And then it just becomes harder and harder to come back from that. If we mess up, if we give in, if we haven't prepared for those moments by storing things in our fridges that can help, which, by the way, I'm pointing out all the meat options, but that could be, for some people, that could be having like ready to eat shrimp, for example, or prawns, pre-cooked, ready to eat. Those are nice little snacks. You can have it with the dipping sauce or not. It can also mean you get hungry. You might want to try, if you are including fruits and vegetables, have some berries, have some avocado, very fatty, very filling, right? Try some, maybe have a bit of smoked salmon and avocado just to nibble on, for example, if you do well with fish or seafood. You may want to have some cherry tomatoes or tomato slices ready to eat. If you want to have something, right, and you're including vegetables, perhaps you want to do up some steamed broccoli. Perhaps you have some, you want to do up some asparagus. Now, these obviously vegetables need to be prepared correctly so that you get as much of the toxins out as possible before you eat them. So I would never recommend you eat these non-starchy vegetables raw. They do need to be cooked or steamed in some way. But those are things that you can keep in mind. Maybe you've already steamed a bunch and you saved the rest in the fridge. Fine, eat some of that, right? Something like that, or the meats, the cheeses, the eggs, that's better than turning and running to, ice cream or a chocolate bar or a bag of chips, obviously. If you do stumble, if you do fall, that's okay. Okay. Nobody does this perfectly. I certainly didn't. I think the important thing at that point is show yourself a bit of grace. Don't make excuses, because you don't say, oh, it's okay. I'll just have it. It's a cheat day. What I'm saying is don't beat yourself up, but, have an honest look and say, okay, this happened. Why did this happen? What happened that allowed you to go to that place? Because I would imagine it wasn't simply a craving, that addictive craving for the carb, the salt, the seed oil, the sugar, but something else drove you to that point. So you might need to look at why were you driven to that point. If you've put other snack options or foods in your fridge and in your cupboards, that would have been healthier, better choices. What drove you to the thing that you're trying to cut out, right? So there might be, it may not be the food that is leading you to the food, is my point, right? There could be other things going on. But if you fail, if you mess up, it's okay. Forgive yourself. We are not perfect. We do make mistakes. And the next meal is a chance to make better choices and go from there, right? Just because you messed up does not mean it's the end of it. That's it. You failed. It's not going to work. You're done because you had a setback, because you slipped, because you had a cheat. Just means accept that you did, right? Don't beat yourself up. Accept that you did. None of us are perfect. And try for your next meal to make it healthier, right? Go forward, moving forward, because it doesn't do anybody any good to wallow in it, but also, we still deserve to eat good, healthy things, even when we've messed up. So even though, like that first Christmas, I went through a box and a half of cookies, guys, a box and a half. There's a lot of keto-friendly, gluten-free, sugar-free shortbread, but it was loaded with carbs. And it was a horrible decision. But I'd already decided in my mind, this is my cheat for the holidays. I'll live with the consequences. I felt awful for the next 3 days. However, I knew right then very clearly, I cannot have any of these things in my diet ever. I cannot do sugar. I cannot do sweeteners. I cannot do gluten-free anything. I can't do any processed carbs of any kind, gluten-free or otherwise. And that just made it perfectly clear for me. So what did I do from there? Well, I still ate Christmas dinner. I still ate the turkey. I still ate, I obviously didn't have stuffing or anything like that. I still had the turkey. I still had the drumstick with the skin. I still made better choices. I still had the bacon and eggs the next morning for breakfast. So I still continued to eat the good things. And I made the decision that just because I ate the bad stuff that I knew I couldn't have, and I ate anyways, I was going to continue to make good choices moving forward. And I think that's also important. So I've not had a cheat day in over 3 years, thankfully. However, if I was to have a cheat day, I would hope that my response would be, right, that was a terrible decision. I'm going to feel like crap for the next few days, but I'm going to still nourish my body outside of this with the right things. So if it happens, we got to just keep up. We got to keep moving forward, as hard as that might be. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope this is informative for you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this content. I know it's a longer one, but I felt like it's a topic that really should be addressed. So thank you for all your patience. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support and your encouragement. I hope that you guys have fantastic days. I do. I hope you guys continue to thrive and continue to do well with this protocol. Thank you for all your encouragement and support. I really do appreciate it. You guys are the best, and I'm super thankful for each and every one of you. I will see you guys in the next video. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.